Hello, this is Lee Sean Nelson, and I'm the host of the Offshoot. Today is a very sensitive topic for me because I know the couple personally, and we'll be talking about the homicide of their young baby boy. So, for those who are very sensitive to this kind of issue, I advise you to take a deep breath before we dive into this topic. So, let's jump right into it. Let's introduce yourselves.
My name is Melissa Thompson. I'm the mother of the deceased Jeremiah Eli Thompson. I have three other children, the twin of Jeremiah, Zachariah, my daughter Marion, and oldest son Josiah. I'm a school teacher with children, which is my heart and my passion. And this is an opportunity for us to share Jeremiah's story about what happened to him, and that my hope and prayer that this happened to no other mother.
And I'm Robert Thompson, the father to the deceased Jeremiah Eli Thompson, also the father to Josiah, Marion, and Zachariah. I mean, likewise, worked with kids all my life, protected kids, making sure kids get treated right, work with families, continue on working with families, and I'm just hoping, likewise, when my wife stated, no one else to experience this, and just hopefully things could change, laws could change to better suit our future, because why that torch got to be passed on.
Yeah.
We can't live forever. Someone got to come behind us and make sure that light is burning.
I certainly understand that and agree with that. And just so you all know, we are in small town Dillon, South Carolina. And so we're talking about the homicide of, like I said, an infant, a young baby boy, in the care of a caretaker who has, in some ways, was getting a lot of protections from the state. Is that the best way to describe it? Why your story, the death of Jeremiah, has not been made more known across this country?
I think they had a gag order based off a fight. The magnitude of it. My background working with Department of Social Services and the foster care case manager, supervisor, and my wife being a school teacher.
Yeah.
Her being a daycare provider for this city, county for 10 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people just thought that to protect, to make sure, knowing how their sayings of who did what.
Yeah.
But facts speaks for itself.
So let's go ahead and jump into what some people perceive to be at the core of some of this story in terms of why it hasn't been made more well known to the masses. So again, we're in small town South Carolina. The town is called Dillon, a very small rural town. Like I said, Melissa and Robert, born and raised here. Their son Jeremiah, like I said, died in daycare due to blunt force trauma to the head under the auspices of the caretaker, who was an older white woman. Not to say that race was an issue, but in this state, and because of the fact that there was a gag order put on this situation, race came into the situation. So first, let's start from the very, very beginning. Okay. And Melissa, if this is difficult for you, I do apologize. So tell everyone the day you took your young boy Jeremiah, and by the way, Jeremiah was a twin, and so this makes the situation a little bit more difficult because there's another little boy involved in this. Okay.
Just reliving February the 12th of 2019 every day. Getting the boys ready for daycare. Normal routine, nothing different. Getting them prepared, getting them dressed, and my husband then putting them in the vehicle to take them to daycare because we had a job to go to. And getting there that morning, which is like maybe a couple of blocks from our house. Met the director at the door of the twins. Went in. My daughter and myself went in. She wanted to go in that morning, so she and I went and took the boys in. And as we got into the infant room, the owner came in, and I gave her the routine schedule of their feeding, the routine schedule of their changing their diaper, which I always did since they started the daycare on November the 13th, and kissed my babies and said to them, I'll see you this afternoon. But not knowing that that was going to be a different see you this afternoon.
And how old was he?
5 months old. That see you this afternoon turned into seeing him laying flat on his back in an ER hospital.
So you weren't there, of course, and you get the phone call, okay? And so you didn't know what was going on when you received the phone call, correct?
Correct. Teaching school, have a schedule, and knowing your schedule, as I did, was getting ready to teach my math lesson. And the classroom had a telephone inside, so the telephone rang, and I was interviewed by an assistant principal at the moment, so I gave her the eye that I needed to answer the phone. So she was like, go ahead. So when I went to the telephone, I looked across the caller ID and I noticed it had the name of the daycare on there. And I'm going, okay, why are they calling? So I answered the phone, and when I did, all I could hear in the background is a young lady saying, Miss Melissa, we're on our way to take Jeremiah to the ER. I'm like, what is going on with my baby?
Yeah.
And all I could hear was he had a cough attack. And I go, a cough attack? So.
And mind you, he didn't have any health problems before.
Jeremiah was a healthy baby. Healthy, laughable all the time, would eat all the time. So no health issues at all with Jeremiah, none. So I got hysterical because I'm going, okay, I just dropped my babies off maybe an hour or two ago, so now I'm getting a call, a cough attack. So I give the eye up to my assistant principal. She goes, just go. And I remember getting in the vehicle with a coworker. And as we're driving, I'm making phone calls. But before I left my job, I called Robert because the young lady did tell me that she reached out to Robert. So I called him. I was like, daycare said they've been trying to reach you, but you're not answering the phone. He was like, no one called my phone. He said, I have my cell phone here and my office phone. No one's called. So I explained to him that they're taking Jeremiah to the ER. He was like, what's going on? So she said he's having a cough attack.
So your instincts were telling you that something was not correct, something was not right, because you had just dropped him off at the daycare center, and less than 2 hours later, you're getting this phone call saying that he's been rushed to the ER.
Correct. So Robert had left, and he went, and when I got there upon my arrival, I walked in the waiting room, and getting in the waiting room, this is the daycare provider standing there looking at me. And she was trying to explain to me what happened, but it wasn't adding up. So I asked the receptionist, could I get to the back? I need to get to my baby. Got to the back, and there I saw my 5-month-old baby laying flat on his back. Lifeless. And when I looked at him, I looked at the doctor, I said, this is not how I left my baby.
You could see physical trauma to his body.
It's lifeless. No movement. They was helping him breathe with machines. They was drawing blood. I'm standing there going, this is not Jeremiah. This is not who I dropped off at the daycare. So my husband had to leave and go get Zachariah from the daycare.
And just so y'all know that that's the twin.
And I remember the doctor saying, we're going to have to take Jeremiah to the back to do a CT scan. What is going on with him?
Mm-hmm.
It was not maybe 5 minutes later, the doctor comes back and says, Jeremiah is bleeding on the brain. I'm going, bleeding on the brain? No. Bleeding on the brain. That's not how I left Jeremiah.
Yeah.
So when Robert gets back to the daycare, get back to the hospital, excuse me, I tell him, I said, well, they're saying Jeremiah is bleeding on the brain. And to see the anguish that was on the father after hearing that news of his 5-month-old son, it took everybody in the hospital to calm him down. I'm already hysterical. And then he's getting upset because we're trying to figure out, we dropped the boys off that morning, healthy, fine, nothing going on. Why all of a sudden he's bleeding on the brain?
Yeah. And
to remind you that the owner of the daycare was in the room with me at the moment.
And she was not saying anything, or she didn't try to give any kind of explanation as to why the doctor suspected there was bleeding on his brain?
I remember her telling me that she shook Jeremiah. She explained to me she was feeding the babies and she picked up to feed Jeremiah, and when she fed him, he started coughing. When he started coughing, he coughed up all his milk. Then she cleaned up the milk and went to lay him on the changing table to change his diaper. And she said as she was reaching up to get a diaper, she looked down and saw Jeremiah's eyes rolling in the back of his head.
So it sounds like, from what we already know, post a trial, she was omitting some things from you. She wasn't giving you the complete truth as to what really happened.
Correct. So she said she looked and saw him and she picked him up and she shook him, calling his name, Jeremiah, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Jeremiah? What's wrong with you? You talking to a 5-month-old. So a 5-month-old's not going to respond to you as you want them to. She claimed that they did CPR on him, one of the other workers. But I do know that milk did not cause rolling in the back of his eyes, hemorrhaging, and blunt force trauma to his head. I do know that for sure.
So it had to take some time then for you all to get to the truth. I mean, so the truth didn't come out right away. You know, you're at the hospital, and the daycare provider, the owner, she was giving you half truths. It's basically sounds like she was plotting on how to protect herself and her business. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I give my account when Melissa called me and told me to try to reach out to me and give it to you. Now I work for the Department of Social Services. They govern all daycares.
Yeah.
It's a big entity, but there are numerous other things up on the umbrella. And everybody in Dillon know DSS number. They know we got a front desk. They know they can page someone if something was to occur. I mean, she even knew I worked for DSS. She even knew I work towards kids. She even made statements. I know I got to take care of all these kids. I know DSS will come about. So when I told Melissa, I said, I ain't get no call. Front desk didn't get no call to page me. If it was a case of emergency, you'd think that if she would have called me, she couldn't reach me, she would press 0 to get someone to reach out to me.
So let me get this straight. So the daycare owner has access to where you work.
Yes.
Okay. And it is standard practice for any business that deals with children to call your organization. Okay. And in this case, she didn't call your organization.
She said she called me as a father.
Yeah.
Pertaining to my son Jeremiah.
Mm-hmm.
But I never seen no call from her. Front desk never seen no call from her. So when I was told that they was taking him, that he was going to have a cough attack, my first, that's all I was told, he have a cough attack. So my first, let's go get my son and take him home. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, you hear something like that, I take him home, stay home for the rest of the day. I got sick leave, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So when I told my director, I said, listen, I got to go check up on my son because they say they're having a cough attack. So I'm going through downtown Dillon and got to the daycare, and like they all conjugated in the bike. I said, I'm here to pick up Jeremiah. They said, Mr. Robert, they took your son to the hospital. I said, took the son to the hospital for a cough attack? I said, yeah, they took your son to the hospital. So I immediately jumped in my truck. Now, give or take, Sean, DSS to the daycare is probably less than a mile.
Yeah.
For daycare to her job is probably 15, almost 15 miles. From the daycare to McLeod is less than a mile. Me working with children, if something like that would happen, I would immediately, I would immediately did something about it as far as take them to the ER.
Yeah.
So, like the daycare to the hospital less than a mile. So when I got there to the hospital, she's coming out. What's wrong with your child? What's wrong with your child? I said, what you mean what's wrong with my child? What you mean what's wrong with Jeremiah?
This is the daycare.
Daycare, yeah.
She's saying this to you.
Yeah.
She's asking you what's wrong with your child.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I said, what you mean? I mean, he was perfectly fine. When we doing, when Melissa dropped him off. I don't know what's wrong with it. Something wrong with your child. So I proceeded to the hospital. They know how the procedure of the hospital, they really can't let you in. So me, like I said, working with DSS, I always have a routine going in there when it comes to abuse and neglect pertaining to children.
Yeah.
I just took the coat off, went in there like a parent.
Yeah.
And when I got by there, I heard the doctor said, I think the doctor joking for a mistake. He said, where are the parents? Where are the parents of this child? And I heard it. I said, I'm right here. And another nurse knew who I was because they dealt with me plenty of time. They said, there's the parent right there. He said, what's wrong with your child? I said, doctor, I have no idea.
So why, I'm confused. Why would the doctors be asking you what's wrong with your healthy child? You took him to the daycare center that morning. Both babies, 5 months old, healthy, and yet now Jeremiah, he's in the hands of the doctors, and they're asking you.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, did the daycare provider, did she tell the doctors something? Was she feeding the doctors information or something?
That I do not know. I'm hoping she did, but to my knowledge, I do not know. I don't know if the EMS. I don't know if the EMS referred to the doctor where they picked the child up from.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any of that. I would think that hopefully she was, since she was a daycare provider, caring for kids many years, such as she said. But I'm not sure.
Yeah. But
I noticed one thing in my job description: you always view the body.
Yeah.
So when I saw my child laying on that table, I like, not Melissa. Repeat what Melissa said, is that's not Jeremiah.
Yeah.
And then I started noticing a bruise on the side of his face. I said, doctor, do you see that bruise on the side of his face? He said, I noticed that bruise. I seen the bruise. So I'm gonna send the child up for a
CAT scan.
And I said, y'all need to reach out to Dr. Ramirez as well, because this is the child's pediatrician. I said, reach out to her. Not knowing if they could or did it reach or not, but I noticed that bruise. And the first thing with bruise, there got to be some type of abuse, or some type of trauma, especially on the head area.
Yeah.
And the doctor said, I see that bruise, and I'm gonna order a CAT scan. So at that time, that's when they said, well, you need to go get the other child, the other baby, Zachariah.
Mm-hmm.
So I proceeded to go get Zachariah, and when I got to the daycare, and I walked in, it's like, why is my child the only child in this daycare room now? There's no other kids.
So all the other parents came to pick their kids up.
Yeah, but my child was there
Just
all
left there
alone,
by himself.
in a car seat, sitting there by himself. Why is that? So just me, already what took place with Jeremiah, I just...
You had deep concerns already about your second son.
Yeah, I said, let me go grab him. Listen, y'all not doing what y'all supposed to do that's correct. Y'all leaving my son in a area by himself, in a car seat.
Yeah.
Seems like he's no concern to you all. Y'all trying to fabricate something because y'all all in a group.
Yeah.
Well, leave my child right there by himself. So I just went on, grabbed my child, took him with me, left the daycare.
Yeah, it seems like there's something on their part, the daycare provider and the doctors and maybe those who were doing the ambulance service. There's a time gap. Is that something that crossed your mind, that the time was not adding up with the sequence of events?
Yes.
Yeah, because I wonder why it took so long for her to even call 911.
Yeah.
Because I got the call at 10:45. And I'm like, okay, so my baby been there all this time, and no one took the initiative. Okay, all right, let's get this baby to the hospital immediately. There's something going on.
Yeah.
You're like less than a mile from the hospital.
Yeah.
So as a caregiver in training, they tell you exactly what to do when you have an emergency.
Yeah.
They take you by step. So if you were such of a caregiver and you knew something was going on with someone else's child, you had maybe 3 or 4 other people there. Okay, let's take them ourselves.
Yeah.
Someone called the parents. Okay, while I'm going, but none of that was done. And to even get the call, the time frame that I got it, I'm like, okay, so this was a immediate reaction after what happened, after we dropped Jeremiah and Zachariah off, then getting a call a little later on. I'm going, okay, now, so the time frame you kept him in that room, all the running around, whatever you all were doing, was anybody thinking, okay, we might need to go ahead and take this baby ourselves?
Yeah.
But no one.
And no one still hasn't addressed that, correct?
No one. And it seems as if though they're forgetting the fact, okay, they're not telling us everything.
Yeah.
They're not telling the whole story.
They're not telling us.
Yeah, and even now, not to jump ahead of things, because we're now in 2023, and there's been a lot to take place between 2019 and 2023. You still don't have answers. No. And meanwhile, again, this is a very loving family. The Zachariah, the other twin, of course, is still thriving, doing very well. And Melissa and Robert are still mourning the loss of Jeremiah. And even though there was a gag order put on you all, you still wanted to get the story out there. So why was there a gag order put on you all? Where did that come from? I know it didn't happen immediately, but what took place between the time that you all were able to take Jeremiah from the hospital and then the time that the caregiver basically went about her own business?
I say this, Sean, and Dillon being a small town, small community, small county, large county, but very rural.
Yeah, very small town, very rural, and it's been mostly, up until recently, it was just mostly a black and white town.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe the gag order was placed after he died.
It was immediately after they transferred him over to Florence. Then after he died on the 16th, that Saturday,
I can't remember when the law
They
firm
came
brought
by.
the.
they came by that Sunday afternoon and brought the gag order. That's
Gag order.
17th of February.
But isn't it a bit quick? Isn't it pretty fast? Why would you put a gag order that soon after the passing of your five-month-old when there haven't been any charges pressed against anyone?
I think the only charge that was pressed at that time was man, I cannot think. It wasn't homicide by child abuse at that time.
Mm-hmm.
It was inflicting great bodily injury to a child.
Mm-hmm.
Someone matters that way.
And that was charged to the daycare provider.
That was charged to the daycare provider. And I'm assuming the reason why, because they had to do their investigation to see what happened to Jeremiah.
And who put out this gag order? Where did that come from? What law enforcement or judge decided to put this in place?
I want to say it was presented either by I'm thinking presented by the solicitor, but I think the judge at that time was Judge Henderson.
Judge Henderson.
And how things was explained because people in law enforcement was talking, people in the community was talking, saying, well, she couldn't have did it. Why they ain't looking at the Thompsons? Even though he worked for DSS, he still could have did it.
So in other words, people were trying to blame you all,
yes,
particularly you, Robert, for this because they were trying to change the narrative, basically project onto you
exactly
what someone else did to your child.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
And just so you know, and that's a trope that you find throughout American society, USA society, where the black man is often been made as a scapegoat when it comes to certain crimes, etc. Is that how you felt, or is that what was it your thinking then? Because they obviously were trying to, again, question you as to having something to do with the death of your own child. I mean, that's got to make you angry still.
I felt like, Sean, that just because I work for the Department of Social Services
Mm-hmm.
and the job that we do, protect kids when they're not being protected by their loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people were saying, we're saying that, well, don't overlook him. Even though he worked for Child Protective Services, he could still do things just like a regular person.
Yeah.
And I really think that they probably say, well, let's point fingers at him.
Yeah.
Because he moved people, kids. So.
But I mean, I heard you saying, and again, I keep repeating that this is a very small town, and I'm saying this because, again, I've known Robert probably before you were even born.
Yeah.
Okay, and because his two older brothers, who are twins, are best friends of mine. But Robert's family has been in this community for a very, 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 very long time. His grandfather was very well known in this county, and so the reputation for the Thompson family is pretty strong. So for anyone, and you've been the baby of 4.
Yes.
Okay, to be questioned about your own child, how did you not want to go after those people and correct them?
Because how I was reared. And I know I still had other kids here. I still have my family, my wife,
Yeah.
and my other 3 here with me, and I know I still had a job to do.
Yeah. But you understand?
Was it hard? Was it hard?
Yeah.
Hard. It was.
Yeah.
It was very hard because I'm trying to wear that hat and this hat.
Mm-hmm.
So which hat should I take off and which hat should I keep on?
Yeah.
It was difficult, and I was surprised of the gag order, and I was surprised how people were getting back to us, what people were saying.
Other folks in the community would come to you, telling you what was being said about the two of you.
Exactly. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Cause I never in my life would think something like this would come knocking at my door.
Yeah.
Sean. I mean, I never thought. I mean, not saying my family is better than anybody, but I never expect that to happen to us, and I don't think no family would expect that to happen to them.
Melissa, how did it make you feel when you were hearing these things and you were hearing people trying to place the blame on your husband?
It was hurtful because he's been with the state for 20-some years, and he's worked with CPS. And to even hear him come home and talk about the children he has seen, and even he wanted to adopt, because it's hard, and then the way he's been raised, the background he's come from, and to even have the community that know this family really well, based off their grandfather, Mr. Son Brown, and other extended family members, would even have the mindset to say that he would harm his own seed, his own children. When he got a daughter that's 20 years old at the moment and a son 17 years old, and if anything had happened, then they would have been removed immediately. So even to have that type of mindset to say that a father would have harmed his own seed, that's a disgrace. And then he's working with other people's children,
trying to protect those kids,
to protect and to serve, and then to say, interview him, he might have done it. No, there's no way. And then to be connected with him, you saying it about him, then you saying the same thing about me. You cannot take one out and leave the other equation on. You got to take both. And I was like, it's unbelievable. Even the people would come by our home, and talk and say, I heard this and I heard that. And I had gotten to the point where I would ask them, were you there on February the 12th? If you were not there, there's no more you can say about what happened. And it was hurtful. And it still hurts. So it's like now approaching the public, we have to approach it in a different angle now. Because we're like,
even still. Yeah, and again, and that's because and there's some positives here in the sense that the community, your core community, did come together. Okay. And not just locally here in Dillon, South Carolina, but again from family from down in Atlanta, et cetera, and so forth.
And Sean, I want to say this, is that I understand the part that once a child is harmed, that you have to do a thorough assessment or a thorough investigation. Everybody who's involved got to be interviewed. I understand that. And farther with that gag order part, I guess they wanted that to be implemented to a point of no one hearing what side or who's saying what. And let that be a part of, and allow that to be a part of the investigation. I understood. I understand that part when I knew that.
But you weren't able to get your story out there, which is why we're doing this conversation now. It's been since 2019, and this is technically your first interview. Okay. And
we had other after my fight.
I did see your interview with
after the trial.
After the trial,
Yeah, but other than that, no.
And that's why I was feeling as a mother, I wanted the entire world to know about what happened. And that was a heartfelt dream, a heartfelt prayer. I want someone else to hear what happened to my baby.
And nothing was you couldn't talk about it.
Talk about it. They kept our hands tied and our mouths closed for 4 years.
Well, you got a good point there, Sean. Cause I never seen a gag order issue on an abuse case.
No, because
child abuse case. Homicide by child abuse case.
Yeah, typically, those stories are out there covered by all sorts of media, whether it be national media or what have you. And it's a situation where I don't understand why it didn't get any kind of national coverage, let alone not much local coverage. So, because your story wasn't able to be told by the local media or the state media or regional media, not to make this about race, do you think race played a role in that? In terms of your child being a 5-month-old young black baby and the perpetrator was a middle-aged, older white woman in the South?
I will be the first to admit yes. Yes.
Yeah. And you, Robert?
I gave everybody the benefit of a doubt until I knew the person.
Yeah.
But now,
So you believe that race was a part of it. In a sense of, do you think that the systems here in South Carolina, in this town, in these counties, were trying to protect the perpetrator?
in this small town in South Carolina, they always call it the scratch my back, scratch your back, or the good old boy system. Like I said, I never had no involvement with that until
unfortunately this incident.
Exactly. And like I've always brushed aside, that's not true. I mean, that can't be. I mean,
You bought into the idea that small town America, everyone is doing their part, and
how you reared and how you raised up. I mean, look at us.
Yeah.
It could take a single mother or a 2-house parent living in rural areas still can be somewhat successful.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then and church involvement, like I said, a village. It takes a village to raise a child. We had that back in our days. So at this point now,
but your mind became open to the realities that that there are systemic things going on where people protect other people based on race or based on socioeconomic status, etc. And you were blinded to that until to the passing, to the homicide of Jeremiah, and now you're seeing that race was likely the reason why a gag order was put on to not tell your story, but also to not let it be known to the world that a white woman is basically the cause of the death of your 5-month-old black boy.
You know what, Sean, and I know Melissa won't mind me saying that. I can remember during the time when Jeremiah was here and we was at the hospital, and her being a mother, mothers have that intuition of children that's going on because they carried them for 9 months. And I can recall one of the investigators just talking to Melissa, and Melissa said, correct me if I'm wrong, she said, I believe race played a part.
One of the investigators said that.
No, Melissa told the investigator. Race played a part. And she said, why you say that? And Melissa said, because my child was the only 2 African American within that daycare. Now, granted, Sean, the reason why we chose this daycare was because all the other daycare was already full to capacity.
Yeah.
When it comes down to infant, we checked with the daycare down the road. They ain't had no more. They ain't had an infant one no more. Cause that's what my first 2 born went to.
Yeah.
Tried another daycare with my job near my job. They couldn't take twins. They could take. They had room for one, but I wanted both of them at the same place.
Yeah.
But they ain't had the ratios out of.
Yeah.
So they follow the rules, and I superbly appreciate that.
Yeah.
For being truthful.
So about how many kids were in this daycare?
In the infant room, there were a total of 6 babies. However, they were out of ratio, and that was a statement in trial. Out of ratio, and on that particular day, still out of ratio. But no one took into consideration and say, okay, well, we need to get this taken care of because when you at a ratio, you becoming, you know, you got
Unseen.
yeah, you got 6 infants plus another in there, and you know, a lot of questions can start arising. You know, why is this child in here? You know,
Yeah.
and they was trying to brush that to the side.
Yeah.
They were trying to push that.
So
far
they
to the
didn't
side.
want to acknowledge the fact that at this daycare facility, your children, your twins, were the only 2 black children
Mhm.
in the
Within
facility.
infant room.
In
Within the
infant
infant room.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when she took the babies in, I can recall her saying, "Oh, I've done this numerous of times. I've taken care of plenty of twins." And I recall and replay that in my head, going, "If you've taken care of another set of twins, maybe they're grown now, have their own families.
Mm-hmm.
What is so different about mine? How come I don't have one of my twins here and the other one?"
Yeah.
So if you were able to do that for 25 plus years or 10 plus years in the daycare facility, and once I bring mine to you, what happened? So that's why,
Mm.
and I will stick to it, race had a big part in what happened to Jeremiah.
Mm. Did any of this come out in the trial?
Well, it came out, but not in the way that it should have came out. And that's getting back to our city that we live in, some of the city officials. We're going to share this part. We're not going to share that part because there were 2 interviews done with this lady.
Mm-hmm.
And the first interview, which is an audio piece,
Mm-hmm.
is missing till today.
Really?
Yes.
And I think
So-
the reason why we're missing is based off the fact that law enforcement changed their carriers. You know, like they had like a cell phone carriers.
So that sounds a bit suspicious. So you're saying that the initial interview that the police, the investigators did with the
Very
daycare
first one.
provider, they can't find that interview.
Cause they did on a cell phone.
It was on a cell phone recording, and
And who did the interview?
her name was Laura Tyler.
And not again. I don't want to make this about race, but I do have to ask. The person who did that first interview, was she African American or was she a Caucasian or was she?
She was a Caucasian.
She was white. Okay.
Yeah.
And they sent like Caucasian. One of them was Caucasian, the other one was African American.
African-American,
So they
yes.
came out there together.
Yeah.
But the one who did the interview, who had the cell phone, I don't think none of them said they had their body cam on them at that
They did.
time.
Mm.
But she had her cell phone. And
So because that interview, that first one was lost, you don't know what was said. You don't know what the investigator said to the daycare provider or vice versa. You don't know if she was probably coached for the second interview or not. So there are a plethora of scenarios that could have come about. So because you just don't know because that first interview is missing.
It's missing. And then the second interview that was done, they played part during the trial, which really rung some red flags to us. They played partial of the live interview,
Mm-hmm.
and we were wondering why they didn't want to play the entire
Yeah.
interview. And we questioned them the last part of the week of the trial. How come there are some things that were not mentioned? Why
Yeah.
you all bleeded out certain parts? And this is why we can truly say that race played a big part. They were trying to hide it, but it came out.
Mm-hmm.
One part in the interview that they bleeded out, she made a comment.
The daycare provider.
The daycare provider made a comment in the live video that one of the twins was crying so bad. A parent heard one of the twins crying. They didn't specifically say which one, but a parent was there dropping off her infant one particular morning, and she saw and heard one of the babies crying
I don't think that was the part of the interview.
when she made a point about strangling.
Yeah.
That was the
No,
live. The
That
live.
was the part of the interview?
The live.
I thought it was, she came to us later on and told us that.
No, that was in
The
that part.
interview?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
that was in that the live part of the interview. That was the live part of the interview about her making a comment about not strangling him, but the color skin, the color of his skin. I'm sorry, it was the color of his skin. Yeah, this is the part.
You can't tell a bruise.
That's the part they admitted bleeding. Yeah,
so
make a
let me get this
correction on
straight.
that,
So during the trial, I'm assuming that the judge didn't allow to be admitted a part of the conversation from the investigation where the daycare provider said that
it was never presented.
It was never presented.
Yeah, not the judge in it just was never presented.
Okay.
Because they felt like race was not a factor of the.
Even though
she made that statement.
That statement that because the babies were black, that
you couldn't tell
there's a bruise or not.
Yeah. They said they can't. Yeah, they're bruised. Can't tell it really.
Oh, that's pretty much three.
Did that sound kind of ignorant to you? Especially from a person who claims that they had handled twins before. And
they did.
3 times, Sean. First time, Melissa said, I think my baby, this happened to my baby because they were black. That's strike 1. Strike 2 was that when they met with us, this often met with us, they asked us, do y'all think race played a part? But knowing Melissa and I, how we was weird, we said, listen, if a black lady would have did this, we'll still felt the same. But they asked that question, y'all still think race played a part? So Melissa said, no, I don't think race played a part. Based on fact, it could be anybody who could do this. Yeah. That's strike 2, trying to push it out. Strike 3 would be the audio tape. Yeah. Saying that she made a statement, you really can't tell a black, a color, I think she said color.
Color, baby. She's a good color.
And they use that called her lack of education. That's why she said color.
It's funny.
That you can't tell a color baby
if they're bruised or not. Okay.
So that's strike 3. So right there, they're showing me they trying to push out.
And then another thing, if we can add another strike about making a comment or wanting to strangle.
She said that.
Someone came to another parent.
Another parent, came to us. Literally made a phone call to us and was sharing with us a comment she heard
the daycare
provider say about wanting to strangle
one of the twins.
And I'm going, okay, so we brought that to the attention of the officials and wondering why that was not even brought in with the case.
And what was told to her, the reason why, because she was interviewed and she didn't say nothing at that time when she was interviewed. Yeah. That's why they didn't bring it up.
So who was your advocate, during this whole process? Was there a legal person whom you felt really was conveying your voice? I know you had the solicitor, the prosecutor, and everything, but was there anyone really speaking for you?
We didn't have anyone. We didn't have anyone.
The reason why state of South Carolina is sought up. Solicitors handle all the cases. Yeah. District attorney. Some people call district attorneys. Some people call solicitors. Yeah. So they handle all the cases. And then at that point, we were trying to get an attorney, the money wise. Yeah. Towards it. And with that, because you couldn't tell your story, people didn't know your story, and so therefore you couldn't do a GoFundMe or anything like that to raise money for someone to be the advocate for you. Again, this kind of goes to what I think is systemic about this small town, which is prevalent throughout this whole country. This is a form of systemic racism that just isn't talked about. Okay, and of course, between 2019 and 2023. Race has been a big issue politically and socially, okay? And this, of course, is a state, South Carolina, that is Republican. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but I was born and raised here, so I'm speaking from experience. I know the state very, very well. And I was also a journalist here in this state for a few years. So I have to wonder, myself knowing this state and how things work, that this is systemic, and also we know that
even though there are a few black professionals out there, in your situation, there weren't many black folks out there in law enforcement, on the legal side or with the judges and so forth. So you basically was dealing with, I'm not saying that everyone was in a conspiracy who was white, but again, you were told things, and you can't ignore that somebody was being protected, it seems like. Am I being fair in saying that? It seems like the system was protecting this one individual who has yet to serve any time behind bars still to this very day.
Yeah, that foot, she's been protected once because of the color of her skin, and then another thing because of her age, and then it's probably because of some people that she know within this city.
Yeah.
Dillon. As Robert stated earlier, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah.
And it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair because now my 5-month-old baby's not here. Innocent, healthy.
Can't speak for himself.
Moments where now I wonder, do she even think, okay, I took someone's baby from them?
Yeah.
Do she have that heart as she stated she had to take care of children? I mean, were you in the business for money, or were you in to actually take care of people's children? Because when we drop them off, we're coming to pick them back up.
Yeah.
So a lot of questions are coming to me now. What was your main purpose? And why did you wait until we put our twin boys in a daycare facility? And then this tragedy happened, and now we have to live with it for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
But now Jeremiah, his voice has only been heard through by us, because he couldn't tell her, stop.
Yeah.
Don't do this to me.
And what about Zachariah? I mean, is he aware? I mean, I know he's older now.
He is aware. He is saying things now that lets us know. He knows where his brother is. He says he's in heaven. He'll see a picture of Jeremiah now. He'll go, Jeremiah, and the question you will ask is, where is he? He said, heaven. So now it's to the point where I believe he's noticing some things, and we're wondering how we're going to explain to him one day
that his twin.
Yeah. Like, why is he not here? I'm assuming he's going to ask that question one day. Why is he not here? And we're trying to prepare ourselves to be able to answer those questions, which is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
I assume he'll be alone, not alone, but he'll be with us for a period of time because the older two will be in school.
Yeah.
And won't be home throughout the week, so he ain't gonna have them.
Yeah, and I'm not a twin, but your older brothers, Tyron and Jerome, who are very good, dear friends of mine, they're twins.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's like to be a twin, but you know from personal experience that your older brothers are twins, and you know what that relationship is like.
Yes, I
Okay.
mean seeing them when they went Dillon High School together. Jerome went to Winthrop.
They both went to Winthrop.
They both went to Winthrop, but before Tyrone went to Winthrop,
But he was in the military.
guard.
Yeah.
So he tried out USC, couldn't gel there,
Yeah.
so he went back to his twin
His twin.
at Winthrop, and they both graduated from Winthrop. They stayed together throughout the whole process,
Yep.
and they still remain in contact. One of them may stay in Georgia,
Charlotte.
and one of them stay in Charlotte, but they still convene back together some parts of their life. So it's very important to be the twin.
Yeah, and so where do things stand now? I mean, because Melissa, my heart just aches, and I try not to get too involved, but the pain is so evident, and it's where do things stand now with, and I don't want to make this about the woman, so I'm going to kind of end this regarding the perpetrator. So this is my last question regarding her. Where do things stand with her now?
She's still out on bond. charge is still there. It's not like she's free, but she still got the charge, I guess, hanging over her head, as one could say. And the case was sent over to the AG, the Attorney General Office.
That's the state attorney general.
Yes, the state attorney general of South Carolina. So that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Waiting on that aspect of everything, what will transpire from there.
Yeah. And so we're in July 2023. How old would Jeremiah be today?
We're 4 years old. We have a birthday that'll be coming up in September, on September 5th. And it's like every day is hard, but you juggle through it.
Yeah.
But as you approach the birthday month, it's even harder because now it's like, okay, I had 2 here, but now 1 is gone. How am I going to celebrate the other one?
Yeah.
And we come up and think of different things to do to make sure that we try to keep his memory alive as much as possible.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do, but we've managed to do it.
Yeah.
Then the next month comes, is February, months down the road, because that's when the tragedy happened 5 months later afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's like a juggle that we're going back and forth, trying to make sure we still have Zachariah here, and we know that Jeremiah's life is living through him. But how do we yet continue to keep Jeremiah's 5 months life alive? You know, so now sitting here waiting, anticipating to go to trial again.
Yeah.
That means we're not reliving it then, we're reliving it every day.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think that's what people tend to forget regarding any situation where the parents lose a child this way, is that it's not over. You know, when the cameras go away, when the court case in this situation is closed, it's still there. Okay, and in the meantime, people are not hearing your voice. They're not hearing Jeremiah's voice. Okay.
And I know we did have a young lady to reach out to us, wanting to, you know, she's an advocate. She was wanting to, you know, get his story and to get it out there. I think her name is, I know it's Miss Tracy Fant. She may be known, and so she's one, you know, that's making sure that his voice get heard as well through us. And that's what I want. I don't want his case to die down. I don't want his voice to cease.
Yeah. So, what can the community do? What can the public do to help you all, especially when it comes to the state attorney general and what is going to be coming up with the next trial? I mean, do you need funding? We want to get the story out there, but again, this is America, and we know that money speaks. Okay, and you know, none of us are wealthy, but it, unfortunately, sometimes in this country, justice comes with how much money you have. Is that a need for you all? Do you need support in that way?
I would say this as a father, Sean, is that we just want justice. See something, say something. Did you know something? Say it.
Yeah.
Go to the solicitor or go to an investigator. Make it known, even though you didn't report it 10 years ago, or 5-10 years ago, or 3 years ago, or whatever occurred. Talk about it now.
Yeah.
Say something about it now. Stop putting people up there like they perfect people. There's no one perfect.
Yeah. No
one. But you do wrong, you wrong. Suffer the consequences. Deal with the consequences. You big enough to do it. Now I'm big enough to accept the consequences.
Yeah.
Accept it. You know you did it. Your conscience tells that you did it. The way you perceive yourself, the way you carry yourself, shows you did it. Only you know what you did that day.
Yeah.
Come clean. If you want to be free, if you want to have your heart to be free,
Yeah.
if you don't have that consciousness that's eating at you every day, come clean.
Yeah.
I guarantee you come clean. You may be,
You feel much better.
you feel much better, and you may be judged here on earth, but you'll feel much better
Yeah.
because you came clean.
Yeah, and hopefully the Attorney General will get some more truth out of this. Because like we said earlier, the timeline doesn't seem to add up. It seems this missing interview, someone has it. Okay.
And not only that, Sean, not to stop you,
Mm.
but not only that, even came during trial, they missed the tissue block
Tissue blocks we missing.
of Jeremiah. This is at MUSC.
Yeah.
In other words, the tissue block.
Yeah, MUSC is the Medical University of South Carolina.
And the tissue block that shows everything that occurred within his body or in the tissue, the cells, something like that. The way it was explained to how I received it, but they lost it. They can't find it. They can't retrieve it. You tell me you cover the whole state of South Carolina, thousands of people, murder, kill, whatever.
Yeah,
But Jeremiah's,
you can't find.
you can't find it.
And then.
And the way they say it's kept in storage,
Yeah.
but yet you still can't. You tell me you keep everything in storage. No database showing that it was logged in, logged out. No video cameras showing that when you first brought it in.
That seems a bit suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, and we didn't find that out until
Today of
the week of trial. No one shared it with us prior to trial because they always prepare you before,
Yeah.
but they didn't mention any of that to us. Okay, this is another piece of the evidence that's missing. We found out the week of trial, and we're going, okay.
So again, no one is speaking for you. You have no advocate. You have no legal expert to be there for you. And
If
yet, all this missing evidence, more than one piece of evidence is missing, and you again have to wonder, how can it not be about race? Okay,
Yeah.
how can it not be systemic? How can it not be protecting someone whom they don't want to see go to jail? Okay, and I get it. She's an older white woman. I can imagine that prison would be hard for someone like that. But still, like you said, take responsibility of your actions. Okay.
And another thing we felt that they were not fair to us, the jury selection. I believe that they robbed us of that.
In what way?
Being that we were given not even a whole day of jury selection, maybe 4 hours, maybe the less of a jury selection, and then boom, into trial the exact same day. So to me, it felt like, okay, we're gonna rush this case.
Yeah.
That was like a rush thing.
Was the
Now
jury,
that I see,
was the jury diverse?
who does?
yeah, it was a diverse jury, and now got me thinking, okay, did you all pre-plan this? A lot of questions come. Now they do. Did you already have in mind who you were going to select? Who was going to be on there, and then you're going to make this.
And typically they do. People don't want to hear this sometimes, but most courts don't always want certain jurors, for various reasons, of course. But this is part of my own personal belief when it comes to juries and how things work in this country. But I think some people are purposely left off juries because they might be too well informed regarding a subject, or might have some biases, if you will. But then again, it goes the other way around as well, because in this situation, like I said, the state, this county, for the most part, for a long time, has been mostly black and white. Okay, but that's changed over the years, but people have been here for generations, and people know each other.
If I would have known, I'm gonna speak for myself, and I know Melissa, she do agree, I not agree. But if I would have known that the audio and the tissue block were missing.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would have waited on the trial until they found those pieces. And the reason why I say that, Sean, is because her attorney jumped on that. Missing audio, missing tissue. Well, her expert witness jumped on that. How they treated them, how they treated him when he went there.
Yeah.
Looking on his shoulders. If I'd have known that, I said, man, let's hold off until we find that.
Yeah.
Because those are key pieces of evidence that the jurors go to weigh heavily on.
Yeah. But they were not able to.
They were not able to.
Yeah.
We were not informed until that day. Of court when it already started.
And so, have you been given any info as to when the state attorney general might start the next proceedings?
No.
Just still waiting.
So this has got to be very difficult because it's already been 4 years. So this could go on for another 4 years.
I don't know. And that is, and we often talk about it now. When are they gonna reach out to us? When are we gonna get that phone call? When are we gonna, and I know it takes time since that things has been transferred over to them. I understand that part, but it's like now sitting and waiting is becoming more of a task that we're waiting day by day now. We waited 4 years. Now how much longer am I as a mother gonna have to sit and wait
for justice
for my baby? And to piggyback off of Robert, money cannot pay. I want justice for my baby.
Yeah.
I want her to be held accountable for what she did to Jeremiah on February the 12th, 2019. Knowing that we fought just that hard. Because I'm assuming that some may think we're going to drop the ball and say, okay, but not in this case.
Yeah.
Not in this case. I'm fighting for him and I'm fighting for other mothers. But to get justice for my baby is what I want.
Is there anything that people can do to support you on this? I know that you don't have a GoFundMe or anything like that at all, but and you just want justice. What can people do? I mean, if someone wants to write a letter or I don't know, is there anything that people can do to be an advocate to give you support?
Sean, we don't know.
We don't know.
We never tread this to
We're in a position where we've never thought we would even be in.
Yeah.
So it's hard to answer that question because we don't know. But we want them to fight with us.
Yeah.
Get his story out there. Any way, shape, form.
Yeah.
That would mean a world of a difference. To know that we're not fighting by ourselves.
If you don't know, if we don't know, we're hoping that whoever sees this will know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To help us out.
Yeah.
In such a time as this.
Yeah. I would pray for that as well because I don't know what to do either, and I don't perceive to have any answers or anything like that. But I do hope that if anyone has any kind of recommendations as to how to support this family as they move through this process, like I said, it's already been 4 years, and the case is now moving to the state attorney general, and we don't know when that's going to be. We don't know when there's going to be any kind of interviews or any kind of prosecution. Nothing is known at this point, and like I said, it's already been 4 years, and all they want is just justice. All they want is that people know about their son Jeremiah. They want that story out there, and so for those who watch this, anything you can offer in terms of what can be done, please reach out to me. Okay, of course, you can find me at theoffshoot.org, or you can just find me on Twitter or Instagram. So I see the pain, like I said before, is still there. But I really want to know, how are you doing? Like how are you really doing? And you have three other children. Like I said, you have Jeremiah's twin, Zachariah, and you also have your older son who is actually going off to be. Actually, he's. How can I say this humbly? He's going to be a starring athlete at the University of South Carolina playing for the football team there. Okay, and then of course you have your daughter. But for you two, how are you doing? I mean, how are you holding up?
Strength, drawing from each other.
Mm.
I mean, he has his days, I have mine. But one thing is as if though these 4 years that we've been going through and awaiting, we have pulled together even stronger now, as a husband, as a wife, knowing that we're not in this. I'm not by myself. He's not by himself, but we're in this together because that was our baby. Now getting to the point where we're able to talk about it. Once we weren't able to talk about it.
Yeah.
But now we're able to talk about it and knowing that what I say, he's listening. What he says, I'm listening.
And when you say talk about it, you mean talk about it between the two of you?
Yes,
Yeah.
both of us. And he encouraged me, to do different types of things in the process of writing a book, a story about Jeremiah.
I recommend that.
And it's in the process of being published.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've taken that. To, the times that I've been writing in my journal and his life and everything, and it's got to that point where I want to share his 5 months, and he pushed me to the point where I'm like, okay, can I do this? Am I capable of doing this? Because I know I have my weak moments, but his strength to tell me it's going to be all right. It's like, yeah, you can do it. I know you're hurting.
Yeah.
You're the mom. You're going to hurt. But it's going to be all right was an opportunity. It was that green light to say, yes, go, do it.
Yeah.
And then there are moments when I may say something to him. He'll say, God got it. Or it's going to be all right. And that reminds me to tell me, okay, go ahead, do it. You can do it. So the strength we pull from each other.
Robert?
God.
I think that sums it up. Yeah.
God will not been for him on our side.
We're gonna have to do more to get Jeremiah's story out there, and so again, for those out there, please, anything you can think of that can help support the family here, reach out to me. Of course, again, you can catch me here on YouTube and leave a comment there, or you can go to the website, which is theoffshoot.org, or you can find me on Twitter or Instagram. It also will help if you subscribe to this channel and help grow this channel so we can get this story out there, because we do want to continue this story. This is not meant to be a one-time thing. So again, this is a personal story for me because, like I said, I've known Robert since he was born. Like his parents and my parents knew each other. His grandparents, my grandparents knew each other. So we go way back in this small town. So multiple generations upon multiple generations in this part of South Carolina. And not to perpetuate any stereotypes regarding South Carolina, regarding the story, we just want to stick to the facts about the realities of what goes on in small towns like this, as opposed to what you always hear about what's going on in large metropolitan areas. So there is life in small town America, and the stories of people like Jeremiah, the stories need to be told, and that's why we're doing this. And again, we want justice for Jeremiah, and so it's not over. So in conclusion, is there anything that you want to say, or?
I want to make sure I bring attention to our daughter, Marion. She's in school. now at South Carolina State University, and she wants to be a pediatric surgeon. So before she went off to college, she wanted to be a doctor, but never gave us, particular what type of doctor.
Yeah.
So after the tragedy of Jeremiah, I recall she and I having a conversation, and I was like, okay, so what type of doctor do you want to become? What did you want? And she says a pediatric surgeon. I was like, okay, why? She said, because Mom, after what happened to Jeremiah. So now she has a focus on why she's going to school and why she wants to be that pediatric surgeon. So that is giving hope to where she'll be able to share his story through and by what she's going to be doing, So I want to
and we need more Black physicians who can really be out there to be an advocate for the abuse of all children. But like we said earlier, in this state, we do have Black doctors and lawyers in this state, of course, but we don't have enough.
Right. Yes. So I believe now that we're all in a place where we're sharing his story in so many different ways. But for his siblings to be able to launch out in the direction they're heading, they're going to be able to share through and by with Josiah with the football and Marion with the doctor and Zachariah, his little way, whichever way he's going to be guided through and by God.
Yeah.
Jeremiah's story is going to be shared even through and by them. That makes me a happy mom to know, okay, his name is not going to die down.
Yeah.
It's not going to die down.
Robert? But thank you all for taking the time to listen and watch this particular episode of the Offshoot. Again, I want to thank Melissa and Robert for sharing this story, and we're going to continue to share this story because, like I said, this is deeply personal, and we do want justice for baby Jeremiah. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe. Please go to the website, theoffshoot.org. Have a good day.